Hi everyone, my name's James. I'm one of the two philosophy fellows at Pembroke. Most of my work is in the philosophy of physics, and today I wanted to take the chance to talk to you a little bit about the philosophy of time and how it interacts with Einstein's theories of relativity. So the philosophy of time is a venerable tradition going back almost 3,000 years to pre-Socratic philosophers like Heraclitus and Parmenides. And as you can imagine, it's therefore a very complicated discipline with lots of intermingling sub-debates. But what everyone agrees is that a lot of these debates have to be radically overhauled in light of the developments in physics in the last 100 years. So I could talk and spend a lot of time about each of these sub-debates and how they relate to one another, but today I'll just focus on one of them, which is about the kind of metaphysics of time. The question here is which events in time exist? And there are three distinct positions which I want to talk about. These are known as eternalism, the growing block theory, and presentism. So let's just go through these in turn. Eternalism is the most liberal position regarding which events in time exist. It says that everything, whether it's past or present or future, is something which exists in the world. So the present, the event of us being present, us talking right now, is just as real as the event of my birth so and so many years ago, which is just as real as the event of the sun exploding in the future. Everything, whether it's past or present or future, exists. So that's the most liberal position. Then the intermediate position is the growing block theory, and this says that past events and present events are real, but future events are not real. So this is meant to capture the idea that the future is not yet fixed. More and more stuff becomes real as we move into the future. Whereas the past and the present are fixed, so that stuff's real, but the future is not real yet. Presentism is the most conservative of these views, and it says that neither the past nor the future events are real, only the present is real. So only the stuff which is happening right now is real. And a lot of people find this very intuitive, very compelling, and you can find many philosophers who embrace presentism as being the right view about which events in time exist. Only the present stuff exists. Sounds very plausible, but what most people agree is that it's also not going to fly in light of Einstein's theories of relativity. In fact, it's actually not so hard to see how this goes, so I'll tell you about Einstein. It's going to take a couple of minutes to get across the essential idea of his special theory of relativity, which he developed in 1905. And we'll be able to see immediately how this kind of blows presentism out of the water, or at least seems to. So, you probably have heard that the essential idea of special relativity is that the speed of light is fixed. It doesn't matter what your state of motion is. If you see light going past you, it will always look like it's going at the speed of light, which physicists denote c. So one way to visualize this is imagine that you're on a highway. In fact, you're just looking at the cars on the highway as they're going past you. So you see someone going past you at 70 miles an hour, just crossed like this. You also see a beam of light going past you, and that's going past at the speed of light. Now, by the addition of velocities that we're taught in school, if you imagine that you're now in that car which is going 70 miles an hour, it should look like the light is going a little bit slower, right? So, for example, if you are on the highway in a car going at 70 miles an hour and someone else is going 70 miles an hour, it would look like they're not moving with respect to you. If that other person were going 80 miles an hour, it would look like they're moving away from you at 10 miles an hour. So the thought would be that once you're in this car and the light's going past you, it should look like the light is going a bit less than the person who saw the light going past at c. It should look like the light is going at c minus your velocity, so c minus v. This is in fact not the case when it comes to light. It still looks like the light is going past you at c, regardless of your own state of motion. Even if you were going at 99% of the speed of light, it would still look like the light is going past you at c. So that's a weird property of light, and it immediately has some very strange consequences when it comes to familiar notions regarding space and time, and in particular regarding simultaneity, which is what I want to say about now. So before relativity, we had the idea that for any two events which are occurring spatially separated, so me over here, my lovely camera person over there, there's a fact about whether those events are simultaneous or not. So you could say that the event of my sitting here right now is simultaneous with the event of the person that's filming me right now. The event of me being here right now is simultaneous with Boris Johnson doing whatever he's doing in checkers. There seems to be, you would think, facts about whether two spatially separated events are simultaneous or not. But one of the consequences of special relativity, following fairly straightforwardly on from this result regarding light, is that this can't be the case. And the way that people normally illustrate this is with a parable involving trains. So it's actually kind of similar to the highway example, which I was saying before, but we're going to use this to show that the idea of two spatially separated events being simultaneous or not just doesn't really make sense in special relativity. So to see this, imagine that you are sat on a train, bang in the center of a carriage, and you have two torches, one in either hand. And you turn those torches on at the same time, the light comes out from either torch, and it should hit the ends of the train at the same time, since you're in the middle of the train, and the speed of light doesn't depend upon the direction that you're facing. But now imagine that you are sitting not on the train, but on the platform, and the train is going past you. In that case, when the person on the train turns the torches on, because from your perspective, the light which is going in the direction of the travel of the train is traveling, but the train is kind of moving away from it. But on the other hand, the light which is going in the opposite direction of travel is moving towards the back of the train, which is moving towards it. It should be the case that from the perspective of someone on the platform, the light hits the back of the train before the front. So that tells us that whether you regard these events of the light hitting the front and the back of the train at the same time or at different times depends upon who you are and what your state of motion is. For the person on the train, the light hits the two ends of the train at the same time. For the person on the platform, the light hits the ends of the train at different times. So, what conclusion do we draw from this? The conclusion that people draw is that the idea of there being an objective, agent-independent fact about whether two events are simultaneous or not just doesn't make sense in special relativity. But you can see how this immediately has problems for presentism, this historically very popular view in the philosophy of time. If there's no objective fact about what's simultaneous, then how can there be an objective fact about what the present is? You'd want to say, if you're a presentist, something like, the things that exist are the things which are simultaneous with me being here right now. But there's no objective fact about what that is. So it's hard to identify, what the real things are supposed to be for the presentist. And almost everyone now regards this as being really deeply problematic for presentism. You're going to have to modify the special theory of relativity in some way to say there's more stuff than the theory tells you about. There's also a fact about what the objective simultaneity is, even though that doesn't seem to be in the formalism of the theory, in order to get presentism to fly. But that puts you in a slightly strange position where you're kind of backtracking on your physics and modifying it in order to reconcile it with your previously held philosophical views. And a lot of people find that very unpalatable. A lot of people would say that it's better to just say this particular philosophical view, presentism, should just be neglected, rejected, in light of results from modern physics. That's, like I say, really the mainstream view now. Something which I've been working on in the past year or so with a DPhil student at Pembroke, Emily Kuroshi-Hurst, is whether the situation changes when we move to Einstein's theory of general relativity, which is his extension of special relativity, which he cooked up after 10 years of hard work, finally arriving at it in 1915. So general relativity, unlike special relativity, can model the evolution of the universe. And in the few years after Einstein's development of the theory, people have come up with cosmological models of the universe, Big Bang models, describing the evolution of the universe over in the entire cosmological scales. What's weird is that, in fact, when you look at those cosmological solutions of general relativity, it seems like an objective fact about simultaneity sneaks back in. which is really interesting. And it means that, in fact, more sophisticated physics than special relativity, the full general theory of relativity, might be able to save views like presentism after all. Obviously, spelling this out in detail is very tricky and technical, and I think is really the kind of work that I like doing, the interaction of these kind of classical philosophical views with modern physics and trying to do technical work and understand the modern physics better in order to see whether the classical views fly. All of this is quite well worked out in special relativity, but there's still loads to be done in general relativity. So anyway, that's just a taste of one of the things that I've been looking at and thinking about in the past year. I hope that you're all enjoying lockdown, enjoying these videos. And of course, if anyone is interested in things, then I'm always happy to correspond about them via email. So.